What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Solar Systems, where we help you understand the system your soul goes into. I'm your host of Royal Archangel Michael, and I am cutting out the esoteric middleman and giving you the tools you need to connect yourself right to the source. Now, I know what you're going to be thinking. Oh, but Uncle Mikey, you didn't say moon days. That's right, because today is a Sunday. But more specifically, today is Regulus Day, or the day of the Archangel Raphael. This happens when the sun conjuncts the fixed star of Regulus, aka the star of the Archangel Raphael. Now let's talk about the being of Archangel Raphael and the energies we're going to be feeling throughout the day, as well as the influences that it gave birth to. So without any further ado, let's fly up to the spot and talk about it. Alright, so what's going on, everybody? So we're up in the spot, so let's hop in and actually talk about the Royal Archangel Raphael, as well as the fixed star Regulus. So let's talk about the Archangel Raphael first. So Raphael, in our perspective, is the second archangel to come, but in the spiritual perspective, it is the third. Now, Raphael is a healer as well as the regulator. So this means that Raphael is the one who determines where you go. So for example, this makes more sense in a spiritual perspective rather than the physical. So with Archangel Raphael coming third, it means that after you have gone through your death and transformation, your learning experiences and processes, and gaining the wisdom, knowledge, and tools that you need, Raphael then determines if you are ready to be reborn and sends you to Michael, or do you need to go back and learn something, which is where Uriel and Gabriel come into play. Which is why, Raphael we call the regulator, and the fixed star being Regulus. You can see where I'm going with this. Now, Raphael's energy is purple in color, and this is a being whose energy is that of healing. This is more so taking something away rather than giving you something, right? Because oftentimes we hold on to a lot of toxic situations and circumstances, and we're holding on to things that we don't really need. So when it comes to healing, Raphael will first come in and take something from you rather than giving you something first. Now, Raphael seems very calm, cool, collected, very high standing, but if you get on the wrong side of Raphael, well, then you're going to get it. That's all I can say. So let's talk about Regulus. Regulus is located in 0 degrees Virgo and has an orb of 2. So this means that Regulus's energy will be felt from 29 degrees Leo to 1 degree Virgo. Now, for you to say you have a conjunction, you need to be within a degree of that. So 29-30 Leo and 0-30 Virgo. But because it's so large and far away, just like the other royal fixed stars, you can feel it within those 2 degrees. So those people who fit that in whatever planetary alignment they have will carry Regulus's energy in that alignment. Now, from our perspective, Regulus is located in the Leo constellation. Now, Regulus's energy has a Mars and Jupiterian kind of influence, right? Where it is ready to act on any emotion, idea, feeling that it gets. And the Jupiterian influence comes in more so with healing. Knowing when you're in a situation you should be and knowing when you're in a situation you shouldn't be. So that Mars Jupiterian influence is, should I go here or should I go here? Do I want to be in this influence? Do I not want to be in this influence? Now let's actually talk about the spaces and constellations that came from Raphael and Regulus. So Raphael gave birth to the 4th house, the 5th house, and the 6th house. Those being the houses that birthed the constellations of Cancer, Leo, and Virgo respectively. So the 4th house is the house of home, family life, comfortability. The 5th house being your creativity, your expression, and the 6th house being your work, your patterns, your routines, your blueprints, your structure. And as we know, the constellation that came from it, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, are all home in those houses, right? And so when it comes to healing, looking at it from that perspective is everybody wants to be in a comfortable situation or circumstance to be able to express and create whatever they desire. And to do that, obviously, that's where the 6th house comes in, of having your routine, your work pattern, your blueprint for actually bringing whatever creative idea that you have, whatever vision you have, I should say, and actually bring it into this realm. However, we also have to look at this situation from a spiritual or yin perspective of where Raphael actually came third. Because in this case, those houses are actually instead the 7th house, 8th house, and 9th house. Which is why if you look at 4th, 5th, and 6th house and the relationship to the 7th, 8th, and 9th house, you'll start to see that there are some similarities that each of those houses correspond to. So let's look at the 4th house and the 7th house, for example. With the 4th house being your comfortability, your home life, your family, and the 7th house being, your relationships, your joint endeavors, your business partners, things of that nature. When it comes to relating, we all feel more comfortable relating when we're in a comfortable situation, when we know everything that's going on, when there's no turmoil. And that's where the Cancer, Libra, or should I say 4th house and 7th house understand each other. Even though they technically square, they still learn from each other and they can still get along in a certain sense. Now at the 5th house and the 8th house, this is the Leo-Scorpio relationship. And if you know anything about Leos and Scorpios, they're both fixed signs. And Leos like to be very fixated on their vision, on their expression, right? Which is why they can also seem very dramatic when they start expressing things. And on the flip side, the Scorpio side of things, you have your fixed water, your fixed way of feeling and adding emotion to things, right? So Leo can learn from Scorpio in a sense of when to cut back and not be so dramatic with its expression, where Scorpios need to express more, because oftentimes problems come in with Scorpios when they aren't talking and communicating and expressing what's actually going on, right? And the 5th house being your creativity and your expression, and the 8th house being the things that we keep behind closed doors. A lot of the times, somewhere along the road, you're going to have to open up what's behind closed doors to someone, even if you might not be comfortable doing it, right? But knowing how to express that makes that go a lot easier for you. Now, let's move on to the 6th house and the 9th house, the Virgo-Sagittarius relationship. Now, Virgo, they like their routines, their structure, their blueprints. If you don't have a plan for something, a Virgo might start looking at you funny. And Sagittarius, on the flip side, it's mutable fire, so being adaptable and changeable to different ways of seeing and feeling about things, aka your perspective, right? So Sagittarius likes looking at things from a different viewpoint if it can, and seeing how this person looks at it and how this person looks at it, and seeing where the similarities are and where the differences are, right? So the relationship here is when you have a different perspective, knowing how to create a structure around it, a blueprint around it, to actually make that come down here and be something that you can use. Because let's face it, if you have this higher knowledge and wisdom, but you have no way of planning it out to get your point across, then what's the point of actually having all that higher wisdom? So it's important to look at these houses from both the yang, the physical, and the yin, the internal, the spiritual realm. Now let's actually talk about the energy that we're going to be feeling during Regulus Day. So Regulus has to do with healing, but as I said before, taking something away rather than giving you something, right? Because oftentimes we're holding on to things we don't need to hold on to. So with this day being about healing, you might start to realize the things that you need to let go of, the things that are holding you back, or the things that are good for you. Those things might start to come to light, and you might be able to see those a little bit clearer and see just how wrong they are for you. Now let's actually talk about what it'd be like to have Regulus placed in a certain planet, right? So as we said, Raphael and its physical representation, Regulus, gave birth to the 4th house, the 5th house, and the 6th house. And from those came Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. That means that whatever planet you have conjuncting Regulus is going to basically be 3 signs in one, and that is Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, as we said. So keep that in mind if you come across a person, or if you have this own alignment in your chart, that whatever planet's conjuncting it is 3 signs in one. Now you might feel all 3 of these at different times, or you might have 2 of them locked away that you've never even begun to experience in that sense, right? They have a strong sense of when things are not going too well, or when you're in a situation or experience that isn't good for you, right? Now, just because they're aware of that doesn't mean they know how to handle it, so to speak. But again, awareness is the first step to actually changing the situation or circumstance that you're in. Now, as we said, with today being Regulus Day, the whole point of this is talking about the sun in Regulus. And as I mentioned earlier, with this being a time of healing and royalty, with it being the Watcher of the North and the northern star of the 4 royal fixed stars, this has to do with prestige and pride, right? But in a sense of being prideful over the animalistic natures and overcoming that, because animalistic natures from our perspective being very low and Regulus being higher than that. Now, another thing to keep in mind with Regulus people is that while they're sitting on their seat, their throne, they don't necessarily like to be vulnerable. And what I mean by this is if you knock them down, they're going to feel very uncomfortable and may kind of lash back at you. Think of it like a Leo Cancer thing, right? Because when you take a Cancer out of its comfortable space, you're going to get the claws. And if you take Leo off of its high horse when it's going around expressing the way it wants to be, being all dramatic, what do you think is going to happen? Two things. They're either going to shut down or they're going to lash back out at you. Okay? So keep that in mind, that when you are dealing with a Regulus person, that they don't like to be vulnerable and taken off the seat that they're sitting on. So this comes to you, of course, how you want to handle meeting a person with such alignments. But anyway, guys, to wrap it up, again, Raphael, the fixed star Regulus, this energy is that of healing and pride and prestige, right? So if you make them vulnerable and knock them off their throne, you might face some backlash. But at the same time, they may be more willing than most to actually help you heal and recognize when you're in a situation or circumstance that you shouldn't be. And just remember, if you're asking Raphael for healing energy, be prepared that something might be ripped away from you rather than given to you in the first place. But anyways, guys, if you like this video, make sure you guys leave a thumbs up. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. And if you want to stay in touch with the daily alignments, we post that every day on our Instagram story. As well as if you want a natal chart, email us down below at solarsystems999@gmail.com. Anyways, that's all I got for now. See you next time. Fly high, y'all.